Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to a live Q&A session, especially for those of you who maybe missed the earlier session today. I still wanted to do one of these live Q&As to answer any and all of your questions. So let me know what they are. I'm happy to answer any questions related to code, building software, creating a business, learning stuff, any of those things. Let me know your questions. So yeah, thank you for coming out. Hey Rahul, what's up? Rahul, excuse me. Should we use Vim for Django? Oh, let me load these questions up on the screen here real quick. Give me 1 second. See here, that's the wrong one. And I got some glitches I still need to work out on the back end. Please give me 1 more second to get this live chat going. Or at least hopefully going. Yes, not that one. That one, not that one. How you guys doing today? Where are you from? Hey, what's going on? Sakar? Sakar, is that how I pronounce your name? I really need to have an archive feature for some of these older chats, because there are a number of them. And it's certainly possible I need to do one more thing. Thanks for bearing with me while I get this all set up. Probably just need to fix how these chats actually come up in general, and at some point I will actually get to that. But I've been doing so many of these live streams, I haven't been getting a whole lot done otherwise. So that's exciting, I think. And let's see here. Here we go. And should we use Vim for Django? You totally could. I don't see why not. Vim is just an editor. It's just another editor that you can use on your command line. I think it makes things a little bit harder personally, but there's some people that love using Vim and use it all the time. So that's something to think about. Thanks for the question. Rahul, hey, what's up? Hey, how's it going? Hello. Thalia? Thalia? Thala, probably, right? Good question. So is my Django e-commerce course still relevant? You did say there are not many changes, but I just want your opinion. Yeah, I actually do think that the vast majority of things in the Django e-commerce course that I have is absolutely still relevant, because one of the things that you don't necessarily get in the newer versions is all the little nuance that I cover inside of Django e-commerce. Like, there's just a lot of things that are built into there that I should say don't require the new versions to really understand Django. So to me, Django is Django. Even Django 1.5 is still at its core Django. There are certainly a lot of features that have changed over time, but that Django e-commerce course was meant to give you a really solid overview of Django, as well as all the concepts that you need to actually build into an actual e-commerce application. So yeah, I definitely think it's still relevant. But if you check out my live stream coming next Monday, I'm going to be actually doing single product e-commerce, as in I'm not going to have a shopping cart and all those a little bit more complex things. But I'm going to be live streaming that for everyone. So it starts on Monday. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to get the notification for that. I actually don't know how long I'll be on tonight. I was on earlier for quite a while, but I figured I would just jump on right now, because I think it's morning time for a lot of you people on the other side of the world, and it's just getting late for me. So I'll probably be on maybe like 20-30 minutes. So get your questions in now. Otherwise, I might not be able to answer them. You know what I mean? Cool. Jules, my comment is first. Please respond to it. I don't know what comment you're talking about. I don't have it. I mean, typically, if you spam the chat, there's a good chance that your comment's not going to be seen, just in general. So yeah. Thanks for the question, though. You want to know that how would I know that I'm good enough for a job, like ready as a Django developer? Well, can you build an entire project on your own? Like, yeah, you could still look up references and stuff like that. But if I'm like, hey, I want you to build me a social network with a feed feature, authentication, and, well, use your intuition for the rest. Can you actually do that? If the answer is yes, then you're probably ready for at least freelancing. I don't see why you wouldn't be ready for freelancing. If your answer is no, then, I mean, you still certainly can freelance. It's just be very open and upfront to whoever's hiring you that your skill set is still growing. You're still learning a lot, but you're going to work really hard for them. I think that's always the case with freelancing. To get a full job, it might not work out that way. You might want to spend a lot more time learning and building projects yourself. Thanks for the question. Can we make a video calling app using WebRTC and Django? I think it can be done. I'm not sure if Django is the best solution. WebRTC relies heavily on JavaScript and browsers, so I'm not positive if Django would be the best solution for that. It's something I need to look into a lot more, I think, overall. Yeah. How to get a project at Freelance? Any good? I don't know what you're saying. Should we use Django Cdn? I'm not sure what Django Cdn is. If it's a package, then potentially. I really like using Django Storages, the Django Dash Storages package. That one's really good for storing your static files onto very performant static file servers like AWS S3 and Google Storage, Google Cloud Storage. Those of which you can actually turn into their own CDN or content delivery network. Thanks for the question. Good vibes. Yeah, absolutely. Dave. Haha, I am back for some more coffee. Thanks for coming out and for the super chat. Dave, I'm gonna have so much coffee by the time we're done chatting. I don't even know what I'm gonna do with myself. Thank you. I actually it's getting late, so I'm not actually close to having coffee. Where are you from, Dave? I think you might have mentioned before. Sorry if you have, but I'm curious, especially because you love giving me coffee, and I appreciate that. Thank you. I love coffee. It's hard to believe that I used to not drink coffee. I used to drink Diet Coke like it was water almost, and I stopped drinking Diet Coke when I met my wife, then girlfriend. Early on when we were dating, I drank a bunch of it, and then I just decided to stop, and she was a great influence on that. So now I just drink a ton of coffee. Allegedly, it's a lot better for you than Diet Coke. I would imagine it is, because it's just coffee beans and hot water, not whatever the heck they put in Diet Coke, you know? Anyways, thanks, Dave. Thanks for coming back. Let's see. Node WebSockets versus Django channels WebSockets. Well, they cover a lot of the same things, right? So it's WebSockets or WebSockets. So which one's more performant? I think Node WebSockets have been proven more times than Django channels has at this point. I do enjoy Django channels, but it's not necessarily the best solution for everything, just like Django is not the best solution for everything. Thanks for the question. That was a good one. Am I a freelancer? No, but I have freelanced before. Like, if you were to want to hire me, I mean, I honestly think at any dollar amount, there is a dollar amount that everyone's a freelancer, right? Like, I would even say, like, Elon Musk, if somebody paid him $10 billion to freelance consult on whatever, maybe not even 10 billion, maybe way less than that, I would imagine he would do it, because you can do so much with certain levels of money. But yeah, I absolutely am not a freelancer typically, right? But again, there is a dollar amount that I'd probably agree to. I don't even know what that is, and realistically, I probably wouldn't even take that seriously for a long time anyway. But thanks for the question. Hey, how's it going? I'm doing well, thank you. How are you? It's getting late. I had a pretty long day, and the last few days I've been like a little tired. So like I'm kind of coming out of that, which is great. I feel a lot better today than the last few days. So thanks for asking. Appreciate it. And hopefully my honest answer is not turning you away or anything like that. It's just how things are. I think we all get that way. You know what I mean? Next one. How do you use Django with custom servers? So basically, like, how do you actually prepare a server to use Django? I think that's your question. Check out my series called Hello Linux. I break this down basically service by service on a Linux Ubuntu server. So check that one out. It's a blog post. I have videos for it as well. So that's how you do it. There's a lot of steps to it. That's why I can't just recap it for you right here. Can you cover Instagram or WhatsApp API from Facebook for developers? So I actually, well, the API parts I do not cover at this point. I have done things related to it, but with the Facebook API, and I believe even the Instagram API, it requires OAuth 2 being set up. The WhatsApp API, I haven't looked into in a while. It used to be pretty limited, but the Facebook and Instagram one required that OAuth 2, which means that you have to have a whole backend and all this stuff. So actually making a tutorial on it was just something that I haven't done done yet, right? Like eventually I'll probably do it again. But to be honest with you, I'm not the biggest fan of Facebook as a company right now. I do like some of the things they put out, but it's just like murky waters as to what is going on with those social networks in particular. So I don't even use Facebook. I mean, I have a Facebook page and all that stuff still. I have an Instagram page and all that stuff still. But to me, the most value I get is from doing things like this, going on Twitter and reading Medium articles, right? So I'm really focusing a lot less on doing the social networking thing, like scrolling for scrolling's sake, which you could obviously do on Twitter and Medium as well. But my goal is actually to spend more time when I am consuming content. The things that I do consume are ideally educational, and that's where I'm getting like my dopamine, if you will, is from educational things, not from like, oh, did you see what so-and-so did type of thing. Facebook and Instagram, especially Facebook, breeds off that a lot. So that's a long-winded answer of maybe I will cover it. Because software is still interesting, no matter where it's coming from. Maybe not no matter, but a lot of times no matter where it's coming from, it's interesting. So thanks for the question. MySQL or PostgreSQL, which is the best option for Django? I haven't spent enough time to really say like this one is definitely better than that one. I really like using PostgreSQL. It had a lot of support for JSON or JavaScript object notation that MySQL didn't, but that might have changed. So I typically use PostgreSQL for Django, and I think that's true for a lot of Django developers and a lot of Django projects, although Django itself has built-in support for both. So I don't think it actually makes that much of a difference for the development process in Django. I actually don't think it makes a difference at all with new versions of Django, especially. That JSON field was one of the exceptions to the rule for older versions of Django. Thanks for the question. Next one. In my Bootstrap live session, I said I wouldn't be covering asynchronous Django in the bootcamp. I will not be covering async Django. I definitely will have a lot of things related to asynchronous Django in the future. So thanks for asking that. The Django channels too, so that actually has asynchronous Django in there as well. It's using WebSockets, so it's not asynchronous views. But if you learn how to do asynchronous anything, Django channels at least introduces you the concept of taking something that is an asynchronous request and turning it into a synchronous one, which is exactly what you have to do in Django views or Django asynchronous views at this point. But I certainly need to do that too. Yeah. So again, guys, I'm not going to be on that long. Let's see. I've already been on 15 minutes, probably another 15 minutes, maybe a little bit longer than that. I often do these things for like an hour long, but like I said earlier, I was already on for like an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes earlier today doing these live streams. And believe it or not, actually doing a live stream, it's a lot of fun, but it actually isn't, like, it's actually easier to create a course for me than it is to answer these questions, because I actually have to think about the questions, where with so many of these courses, I lay out some notes and then I just go, and I mean, I'm kind of in autopilot mode in a way, to get them done. So it's not as hard to do. So anyways, yeah, thanks for the question. Django graphing, at least a blog post rather than a tutorial. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Priyanash, is that how I pronounce your name? I feel like you come to my live streams a lot. Thanks for the question. Yeah, that would probably be a really good blog post, something that I should cover at some point. So thanks for the suggestion. Skill requirements for a software developer or engineer. I honestly think grittiness is like number one. Like, are you going to work hard to get through the challenges that you'll face as a software developer engineer? Because you will face them all the time. So if you're willing to work through the hardest parts of that, I think that's like the number one skill that you should cultivate now, is how to actually stick with something when it actually really gets tough. Because software development changes all the time. And one of the things that I don't hear a lot in the comments is about AI and machine learning and how it's going to drastically change our jobs super, super soon, right? And when I say that, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, but relative to how long other kinds of jobs change, I think it makes a lot of sense that software development is going to be among the first ones, because so many of us are used to rapidly changing to new software in general. And I think AI is going to make a huge dent in what we do. Thanks for the question. What's my take on the no-code space? So let me clarify this to everyone else. No-code is the process of taking standardized operating like APIs and applications and allowing a non-developer do some sort of workflow or integration. So a good example of this would be, let's say, for instance, you have a MailChimp form somewhere and you just use MailChimp's code to embed it. So you copy their embed code and you put it somewhere. When somebody signs up for that MailChimp code as a software developer, we can do all sorts of things to that, right? We can move it around. And of course, we could make the form itself. But the no-code space, what it does is it takes that and it essentially allows a non-technical person to select from like a drop-down and say, oh, I want to send this email to Google Drive, or I want to automatically send this email to my CMS system or my customer management system, or I want to send this to a spam filter. Like non-technical people start to do technical like things, but they don't actually write any code. So they're really just essentially writing a recipe or a pre-planned menu of options of recipes to then handle all sorts of things that are related to actual data. So that's a lot of, that's hopefully that's good enough context. No code's interesting in the sense that a lot of marketers are really starting to like it. A lot of entrepreneurs are really starting to like it, because you don't have to have this big technical background to actually put together really robust web applications because of no code. But honestly, I was talking to Quincy Larson over at Free Code Camp. He and I were talking about this as well, because I was interested on his take. And he's like, hey, you know what no code is really good for? Is for developers. It's because then it allows us to rapidly prototype all kinds of different features that we might want on any given web application. And then once we prove that that feature is wanted, or makes a big impact, then we can actually take it out of no code and turn it into actual code. So it's kind of a weird dichotomy there as to where, as a software developer, you can really leverage no code much faster and much better than as a non-technical person, somebody that doesn't know how to code. But it actually seems to be used a lot more by the non-technical people that don't know how to code than it does by the people that actually do know how to code. And we're going to see this with AI taking over as well. So I think it's interesting. I don't know there's a lot of talk that you don't need a developer now because of no code. I don't know if that's true, right? You probably can build a lot of things that have already been built, but if you're trying to do something new, I'm not positive if no code can actually accomplish that. And the question of what's new, I mean, we could talk about this for a really long time. I should probably actually spend a good amount of time talking about no code because it is important. So thank you, Jesus. Appreciate it. Have you asked me this question before? How much should one practice to get better at Django? I'm learning Django for a while and I don't feel confident in Django. I mean, it goes back to what I was just saying about grit. You should just get some grittiness and just keep going. Make a schedule of when you want to do this, when you want to learn, and stick to that schedule and just keep on going. And when you have a question, you just ponder that question, sit on it for a little bit, do some Google searches. But Django, you can absolutely learn it. It just takes some time and some willingness to get through the really tough parts. Trust me. I mean, I struggled with building web applications a long time ago, and I just decided, one day I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to learn one way or another. And once I made that decision, I just stuck with it until I got it. And you just need to practice. So if you make it a daily practice, that's going to be a lot easier. I have a lot of courses on Django, a lot of try Django stuff. Just sticking with the version that's in there and sticking with the video. And honestly, even if you're just copying what I do throughout, you'll start to make sense of it because you're going to be literally copying everything that I do, and it'll start to become what you start to do, and you'll start to absolutely know what is necessary. Hopefully that helps. You're working as a software or a Django engineer and you just joined yesterday. I want to know what you'd recommend me to start with, how to be a pro in it so they'll accept me as full-time. To me is asking, like, for your job, asking a lot of questions, and ideally questions you spent a lot of time thinking about, right? This question alone might be something you want to bring to your managers, saying like, hey, I'm here because I want to be a full-time worker. Please tell me what I need to do to get there. Like, what are the things that you see that I'm weak in? Or more specifically, what are the things that you need help with? And then spend all your time trying to learn that stuff, right? That's what I would do. Energy code, how to start a software agency. I'm assuming you mean like a freelancing software company. Well, I think a good way to start one is actually to join one first, even for a few months, see the inner workings of it, see how they do sales. But really it's going to come down to sales. Like, if you can get sales to like actually have people hire you to build stuff, then you just need to deliver. And if you do that enough, you'll have your own software agency. It's probably not the greatest answer, the answer you're looking for, but honestly, going to work for one will give you some insight in there. And you just tell them and be completely honest with them. Don't necessarily say you want to start your own, but say, I want to know everything about this business. So I want to do sales. I want to do customer service. I want to do all of those things, because software agencies, building software, is not just a matter of actually writing the code. If you are doing it freelancing, it's all of the other things. It's the customer service, the soft skill things, sales, and all that. Thanks for the question. Will my 30th day of Python be special? Yeah, because it'll be the end, finally, after months. My voice is a little raspy, sorry. Yeah, so I actually still don't know what to do for the 30th day of Python. So I'm all ears for suggestions. Thank you. Please tweet me 2 further, just like tweet me 1. It had hashtags. This one should have it too. Yeah, probably should have hashtags and a few other features on it. Maybe I'll revisit it at some point, but I've got a really long list of things that I want to cover, and it's just hard to backpedal on older projects and go back to it and pick up from where I left off. I've definitely tried it in the past, and it just doesn't work that great. But hashtags themselves, how to do it, I would actually watch my regular expressions tutorial on how I run and build regular expressions and use regular expressions in Python, because then you will be able to extract hashtags no problem at all. So that's absolutely what I would do if I was you, and you were wanting to build a hashtag related thing in there. So thanks for the question there. I do have a poll that actually works that way. So this poll right here, I'm actually really curious. Actually, let's skip that poll. I'm going to leave that as is. Let's go ahead and do this one. Okay. So here's a poll, and this is related to your hashtags. Hashtag G, hashtag H, those are actually how you vote. So if you write in the comments right now, it's going to update the voting, right? So as you see, there's 0 votes. But if you actually use those hashtags in any other project, all you really need to learn is regular expressions. You just need to learn how to parse a comment or a tweet, much like this, to figure out what the actual hashtag is. And once you know those regular expressions, you can use it on JavaScript as well as Python. So of course I covered in Python, but regular expressions do cover ground in a lot of places. So I do actually hope that you guys vote for this, because I am interested in knowing if you're on here, if you are subscribed, and if you're not on here, why aren't you subscribed? You know what I mean? Okay, cool. 100% saying yes. I figured as much, because like it seems like if you're subscribed, you're gonna know about these live things a lot more quickly, and less likely to jump on if you're not subscribed, I would imagine. Anyways, thanks for the question. I don't know if it's only me or most people, but I'm not satisfied with what you learn in one day. Okay, that doesn't do a whole lot for us here. This is a good question. MongoDB versus, let's see here. MongoDB versus a SQL database. So a NoSQL database versus a non-relational database versus a relational database, I think is really the question here. It really just depends on the project that you're working on. Both can be incredibly great in performance, but I would imagine that MongoDB, the reason it's picking up a lot, or the non-relational ones are picking up a lot, is because there are some performance gains in some areas. So thanks for the question. Okay. Ha, this is funny. So you asked Professor, what are good career choices, game development or web development? And he said, if you want to work your entire life for someone, go for web development. Yeah, so, you know, I teach all the time, but I don't necessarily call myself a professor. I think somebody who has been teaching their whole life and hasn't really been in industry much will make assessments about the industry that aren't always fair. So like a game developer, there are certainly game developers that have a great life and make a great living as just a game developer. That's true for web developers as well. I would actually think I know more freelance web developers than I do freelance game developers. But of course, web developers, in this case, that is kind of working for someone as a freelancer, even if you're not working at their job. Whereas a game developer, there are game developers that make amazing games with 1 or 2 people or a few more that end up selling that game, and it just absolutely crushes for 1 year even. And that's pretty much what makes their career. Like, they make a ton of money from it and then move on. But that's also true for web development, right? So like Instagram, for example, when they sold to Facebook for like $2 billion or whatever it was, there was 13 people that worked there, right? Like, yeah, I don't know very many game studios that can accomplish the same level of scale. So I actually think the best career advice would be What are you interested in? What do you think about all the time? What are you like constantly going, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I do that? That is what you should be doing, not like what I tell you or what anyone tells you. You should follow what you're interested in, and where you actually put the most of your effort, right? So if you're interested in something and you're not putting effort behind it, then there's a good chance that you're not that interested in it. But if you're interested in it and you put a bunch of effort into it, then you'll be able to make a career that's really satisfying to you. But if I told you don't do either one of those things, drop all of it and actually do data science, are you going to listen to me? Well, I mean, maybe. Data science is incredibly interesting, so I think a lot of people would go that route. But I would imagine you would probably not do that, you anonymous troll, you. Thank you. Is it a good idea to serve Django on IIS server on the client's local machine? Oh, the acronyms. I always forget acronyms. I actually remind me what the acronym is later in the chat, and I'll see if I can get back to you on that one. Thank you for the question. Tell us something about socket programming, or more specifically, WebSocket programming, I would imagine is what you're referring to. So typically what you do if you have, let's say, a Django project and a React front end, what React is going to do using REST APIs is it's going to make a call to the backend every time something needs to happen. It's pretty much one way, right? So React initiates something, the backend does something and responds back, right? But the backend is not really talking to the front end or talking to React on its own. It doesn't initiate any conversation there, really. But WebSockets, on the other hand, it's a persistent connection. So the front end and the back end are persistently connected. They're connected until either one of them ends the connection. And this allows for back and forth communication constantly. It's how we can do live chats. It's also how you can do web conferencing in many cases, notifications. There's all sorts of really cool things with that persistent communication. But it's also better performance overall, or can be better performance if you do it right, because of the fact that you're not opening a brand new connection every time. It's just a persistent one. Hopefully that answers your question. Hey, Glasslight, I think you came before, right? I woke you up at 5 a.m. or something like that. Just kidding. I know I definitely did not. Thank you for the question. What's the best way to get into Quant? I have no idea. Once you find out, Guru, please let me know. Facebook is building an AI that will convert Python code to C++ code. What is your views on that, and what will impact it'll have on the whole world? One of the biggest complaints that really hardcore low-level developers, like writing C++ code developers, they complain about how slow Python is. And that's probably true a lot of times, right? So it's why something like NumPy exists, is because NumPy is numerical Python, but I believe it has bindings in C, so it's incredibly fast, versus doing a lot of the same operations in pure Python is not even close to as fast. So if they actually do create an AI that converts Python code into C++ code, what I would imagine will happen is a lot more people will start using Python for a lot more things. That would be really cool. I actually want to see the link to the research on that, because I do think that would be amazing. Now, what impact it will have on the whole world, I don't know. I think maybe it makes things, really fast applications, accessible to a lot more people, because C++ code is not nearly as easy to write as Python code. And if there's an AI that fills in the gaps, this is like one of those examples that, well, what if you could just take English and turn that into C++ code or Python code or whatever code? Like I say, hey, I need a form that gets an email, and then it asks me, oh, do you want that email to be validated? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Here are a few recommendations I have for the validation. Should you do that? Yeah, that sounds good. Like those kinds of AI conversational things for code will probably happen at some point. So this might be one of those first steps in doing that. That would be really, really cool. I definitely want to look into that. I probably will, even if you don't send me a link. Thanks for that one. Is it worth learning about Nginx and Unicorn? Yes, if you're building web applications, it's worth learning about both of those things. They're not incredibly complicated. A lot of it's just configuration, and Nginx has a YouTube channel with a lot of content on it. So check it out. Unicorn is also really easy. The documentation is very thorough. So even just having some basic knowledge of Unicorn is good too. Thanks for the question. Thank you for the insight on the Facebook API. Good. Thank you. Hello. Is GraphQL capable enough to replace REST API? And have I heard about the Ninja REST framework? So GraphQL and REST APIs are just different ways of trying to accomplish the same thing. So yes, GraphQL can replace REST APIs. I'm really scratchy throat right now. So it absolutely can replace each other. Okay, so I would say that would be something that you might want to learn more about yourself. I tend to prefer things that I've been doing a long time, as many developers do probably, right? So I haven't given GraphQL enough time to be like, you should stop using REST APIs and use GraphQL. I've actually heard that quite a bit, that specifically. So keep that in mind. That hasn't been the case for me, but I would say keep that in mind. So have I heard of Ninja or Django Ninja REST framework? Yes, actually, maybe it wasn't you that sent it to me, but somebody sent it to me recently, and it looks great. It's like fast API right inside of Django. Haven't used it yet. I don't know how mature it is, so there's a number of things that I would want to check out, but it is something that looks pretty cool. Oh yeah, cool. How difficult would it be to create an image recognition / OCR algorithm of our own, rather than using OpenCV, or of our own using OpenCV or TensorFlow? And how would one start go about doing it? So OCR is object character recognition. So honestly, do you know how to do MNIST? Do you know how to turn the MNIST dataset into a machine learning model? If yes, then cool. Then you can start there. A lot of it is going to be labeling data, right? So you could even use TidyAI to grab a bunch of images with text in it, and in that text, you're going to label what that text represents, the individual letters or characters in there. There's a good chance that you'll probably do object detection for each text item, right? So if this was an image here, there's a bunch of text going on. Like an AI that recognizes all that might be a little bit challenging to do. But I would say you use TensorFlow, Keras, PyTorch, FastAPI, or excuse me, FastAI, not FastAPI, to actually build the machine learning model itself. But it's going to start with a good amount of data. You will need a lot of data that's labeled, that has characters in it, to actually be able to extract that data. I think that's what you're asking. You're asking me to extract characters. If you're just saying image recognition, I think Keras is the way to go, because Keras is a high-level Python API that's not that hard to implement. Another one that's also the way to go, it's either Keras or FastAI. Jeremy Howard, this is the FastAI one with PyTorch. This will actually show you how to do a lot of those same things. And there's a FastAI course. There's a couple of them that goes into this in detail. That's not necessarily OCR itself. So yeah, thanks for the question. Dennis, what's up, man? Thanks for coming out. Yes, I don't know if I would say all in on live streams, but definitely doing a lot more live streams, because it's a lot of fun, man, and you should totally check it out. And you know, honestly, at any time, come distract my stream. I love it. You guys, like, live streams are fun, and this is why. You get people like Dennis showing up and just saying what's up and just Really throwing me off my game, Dennis. Thanks. Just kidding. I love having you here, Dennis. Cool. And you get so much love, dude. Like, it's crazy. People are always like, "Hey, Justin, you should do something with Dennis. Dennis is cool, man." Yes, absolutely, Dennis is cool. I think there's so many cool YouTubers that are programmers, and Dennis is definitely one of them. Mitch, this other guy, coding with Mitch, he's cool too. He's got a number of friends that do it. I think like as YouTubers, we need to support each other, but then as software developers too, right? So like you guys come out and ask a bunch of really good questions. So yeah. Thanks for the comments. Thank you both. Appreciate it. Dave, Missouri, nice. Coffee is greater than Diet Coke. Absolutely. You're using server-side Swift, but maybe Django someday. Cool. Server-side Swift seems really interesting and something I haven't given enough time to really say, hey, yeah, we should use a lot more server-side Swift. But I've had really good feedback on it from other people. Yeah. Thanks, Dave. When will we see new courses about Kubernetes and DevOps? From me, I can't. It's really hard to ever really give a good timeline as to when something like this would specifically come out. But I know the YouTube channel Network Chuck. I don't know Chuck myself, but he makes some really good content, and I believe he has a number of things related to Kubernetes. There's also a really good service called A Cloud Guru. I think they have Udemy courses as well, but acloud.guru, I believe, is their website. I just Google it. They have a lot of really, really good DevOps related things as well. So if you're really in the market for doing it now, that's absolutely where I'd go. Grateful if you could do a bottom line Django versus React, please. I'm not sure what you meant by that. You know? Yes, I'm live on your birthday. Tech Realms, thanks for hanging out on your birthday. Appreciate it. Can you use Django to create an audio streaming platform? Yes, but I don't know if you could use Django alone, right? You probably are going to need quite a few other technologies in there for the streaming to work and work well. Yes. Good question. In which scenario might I need GraphQL for Django? So REST APIs are structured APIs for working with some sort of service, some sort of backend data, right? So that structure is designed by the developers. GraphQL, on the other hand, is a little bit more freewheeling on the structure. You can just send a request with the things you want, and depending on how they design in the backend, you will get those things. So you can actually replace pretty much everything that you do in REST APIs with GraphQL, or at least that's the hope that they're pushing towards. I am definitely not good enough at GraphQL programming in general for both client and backend to say that I would for sure pick GraphQL over doing REST APIs, because I know REST APIs really well and I can get something up and prototype really fast. I'd say that's like one of the downsides of starting to get good at programming is you start to then lean back on the skills that you know really well. GraphQL and REST API are one of those, I guess, weak areas for me that I always tend to lean on REST APIs when I should spend a lot more time with GraphQL to give you an even better answer than that. But the general idea is you should be able to use it anywhere. So hopefully that helps. Give you a learning path for the Django REST framework. First, learn all of Django, Django model views templates, at least Django model views, and then start to learn about serializers in the Django REST framework. It's very similar to Django forms. And then start to learn about the class-based views that Django REST framework uses. I don't actually think it's incredibly complicated if you know Django well. I also have a REST API series. It's like a couple years old, but it's barely changed today, if at all. Thanks for that. Dennis, You're Russian? Whoa, I didn't know that. Yeah, let's absolutely do a collab one day. That sounds great. What does everyone else think? I should make a little poll for that. I don't have time to do it now, but yes, Dennis, let's definitely do a collaboration. At least one. What do you guys think? What should we do? That's so funny. I love this. So something else that's funny so this reminds me because Dennis and I we talk to Quincy sometimes from Free Code Camp, and I have a video on Free Code Camp, and some people were mentioning that they've met me before, and I'm like, what? Like, I do not think that I get recognized anywhere because I just code, but I was for sure recognized one time, and I was in Austin, Texas, and my wife and I and our daughter. My oldest daughter, my other one wasn't born yet, but the three of us were getting tacos, and the guy working there was like, "Hey, are you the guy from Coding for Entrepreneurs?" And I'm like, "Yes," and it was surreal. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because on Free Code Camp, a few people said that they met me, and I'm a really cool guy, and I'm like, "What? Like thanks for thinking that, one, for sure. But I don't get recognized by people on the street. I'm not like Casey Neistat where he just rides his skateboard down and people are like, whoa, Casey. That doesn't happen to me at all. Not even close. But it's really funny because, I don't know, Dennis reminded me of that. I wonder if Dennis gets fans screaming at him in the streets. Probably. Dennis is way cooler than me, so, we got that going. I want you to clone your channel completely in Spanish. Do you agree? No, I do not. You should not clone my channel. You should make your channel. Whatever your channel is going to be, don't copy mine. That's silly. Then it's going to look exactly like mine, and you should make yours, right? Even if it covers a lot of the same content. Dennis and I have a lot of overlapping content. Dennis has people that enjoy what he does, but Dennis's stuff doesn't look like mine. I mean, Django code looks like Django code, so no matter what, it's going to look like Django code. And if Dennis is doing it right, which I think he probably is, it's going to look very similar to mine because we both have a very similar coding style because, one learned from the other. I'm not going to say who. Maybe Dennis can clarify that for people. So, yeah, I do think there needs to be more Django developers teaching Spanish versions. So, yeah. Totally think that. Jesus, why do entrepreneurs continue to focus on native apps when progressive web apps have most, if not all, of the same functions? Seems like I would imagine you're saying progressive web apps are much better. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure on the answer there. I think the native apps thing is largely in part because building a native application isn't a progressive web application. It's not a web application then. It's a native application, right? And there's some people that don't love building web applications, so building something that's called a progressive web application is going to maybe automatically be like, I don't want to do it. Maybe that's it. And also, like, you hear very notable names like Slack and VS Code. Those are all built using Electron, right? And Electron is something that's basically a native application itself. So it's not surprising to me that an entrepreneur that's not technical would automatically jump to be like, oh, Slack uses it. Let's do that. You know what I mean? Dude, want to play Minecraft? Is this my brother? This feels like something my brother would hit me up, my younger brother. If it is you, please text me now. Probably not you though. And that's like, yeah, right. You stayed on for 20 minutes. Anyways, Python object-oriented playlist, please. Maybe. Thanks for the suggestion. What is G for? I'm assuming that's a Minecraft thing. I don't know. Like, cause you got a few ones saying G. Who are you guys like? This same exact thing came up recently. Yeah, you need OAuth 2 to use the YouTube API, so it's definitely outside the context of 30 Days of Python. You need to have quite a bit more things in there for that. So thanks. Please make a series about using AI and ML with Django. Thanks for the suggestion. I think at some point I will. I will. Or I definitely will. Not at some point. I definitely will. So, yeah, thanks for the question. There's been like so many talks on that I've given or responded to on AI with ML and Django. So Django can fit in that equation, but the hosting of the model is likely not going to be on Django. It's probably going to be on a much smaller framework as a microservice itself. That way, that single service doesn't really impact the rest of your Django service. Unless all you need is the Django service with some authentication for the model itself, that's totally okay too. For network automation, how easy is it to start Python? So if you're a network engineer or to do network automation, how easy is it to use with Python? Yeah, Python's really good for all sorts of things for network automation. There are other tools that are likely better, but Python can absolutely do it. So coming back to this auto streaming platform, what libraries can you use? Yeah, I'm not sure. You're gonna have to ask me another time when I've spent a little bit more time researching audio streaming with Django. My sense is you would not be doing the actual streaming portion through Django. Like you'd use something else for that. Thank you. Yes. You're inspired by me, maybe? Is that what you're saying? After you start Django, now you work with Django REST API. Can I share about my work experience in my current position? Yeah, I am a... sorry, I just read another comment. I am I own my own business, right? So like I run codingforentrepreneurs.com. I put out a bunch of courses. I also have a number of other little projects that I'm involved in. I've been a co-founder of other businesses as well. So that's what I do. I don't actually have a job in any sense whatsoever. So I have freelanced before. I've consulted before. I've done those sorts of things. And sometimes it's fun. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's solely as a Django developer. Sometimes it's all the other things that I know in relation to software. So yeah, thank you. Internet Information Systems. That is so silly that I forgot that acronym. Always. There's so many acronyms in software. It's crazy, especially in DevOps, man. There's so many. I don't remember what that question was though, so thanks. Sup, greetings from Brazil. One question is, Django REST a must-learn framework, and is it easier compared with Django itself? Yeah, so if you know Django already, using the Django REST framework, I think is pretty easy because it's built on top of a lot of the conventions that Django has. So the trickiest part might be learning class-based views. So if you don't know class-based views already, then you definitely want to spend some time with that in pure Django itself. But then it's actually just using a serializer. Now, a serializer works like a form in one sense, like actually accepting data. It's very similar to using Django forms, but then also sending data, you use a serializer to serialize it and turn it into JSON data. So it kind of works two ways. So that's the serializers. And then other than that, it's just mapping in some views and also adding in headers for authentication. Other than that, it's really not that hard. I mean, you don't always have to add in those headers. You can use the Django REST framework with a standard Django session as well. Thanks for the question from Brazil. Whoa, you're just watching my 30 Days of Python vid? Hi, cool. That's awesome. Great to hear it. I do serverless backend with Flask. Is it secure to implement a whole user CRUD system with it? Yes, I think Flask can be absolutely secure. There's a number of things that you'll need to consider doing while you're in that environment. Haha, there we go. Is it a good idea to serve a Django application on a Windows Internet Information System server on the client's local machine? This is a good question that I do not know the answer to. Probably no surprise because I forgot what that acronym was in general. This feels like something that a Windows developer would know for sure. I just don't develop in the Windows system nearly enough to give you a good answer here. My sense is that you can serve a Django application on it. I just don't know how secure it would be. So you would have to make sure that the client, I'm assuming that you're saying clients as in somebody who hired you's local machine, you would want to make sure that they understand that. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it. All right, guys. I said I was only going to be on for half an hour, and it's been an hour. Dennis. I don't blame Dennis, but it's more of like I just get these good questions, and then we get on a roll, and then hours later, here we are. Not really hours later, but almost an hour later, right? I love these questions and some of these comments. Should I do up to day 15 or 30 days of Python to start Django? I think at least, yes. You might actually want to do more than that. But yeah, you definitely could. This is funny. Raja, please make a Django course for Udemy. Oh, Raja, I have a lot of Django courses on Udemy already. And I have a number of students on there, probably more students on Udemy than I have followers on YouTube. I think that's actually still the case. So yeah, I have a lot of stuff on Udemy. Check it out. Thanks for asking. It's under my name, so Justin Mitchell with one L. That's how you'll find it. It's not under Coding Entrepreneurs or Coding for Entrepreneurs, either one. Thanks for the question. Are all the course updated, or is it still in progress or process? So what courses are you referring to? I update things a lot, and I pretty much usually don't go backwards in courses anymore. Instead, I just release a new version. Going backwards and updating an old course, I don't think is that productive. And to be honest with you, some people have, like, I updated in the middle of someone actually getting a lot out of that course, and then it's like all that content's gone. It's incredibly frustrating for them. It's incredibly frustrating for me too, because then I'm hearing from a number of people saying, hey, where did the rest of the course go? So I stopped doing that. I now just release newer versions somewhere. So that's why I like following me on YouTube or on my website is always going to be the best way to find out the newest versions of things, because that's where I put it. Definitely on my website, codingforentrepreneurs.com or cfe.sh. So right here, that website will definitely show you all of the latest and greatest things that I've done. Thanks for the question. Okay, so if we don't have any other, pressing questions, I think we've got a number of questions on here already that I won't be able to get to because I'm already like 30 minutes behind, because I'm always 30 minutes behind. So yeah. I wanted to register for the course, but it was saying upcoming or updating, so I got confused. What, which one? Yeah, which one? Which course is always saying that? I think we're a little bit behind. The e-commerce project. Yeah, no. So if you go on cfe.sh/courses, e-commerce is there. It's fully ready to go. You can totally, absolutely watch it right now. MD, how am I? My hat looks better than in the previous one. This is a different hat. Thank you for that. So this one right here is my older one, and it broke. It's like, you know, those services that just kind of like, well, there's a lot of services out there that can just put your logo on things. That one I didn't really think much about. I just got my logo on. This is a much more sturdy hat. It's just not super clean. I don't have a way to clean the hat in the washer. I probably could just take a wipe or something and clean it. But yeah, I actually really want a Django hat. Would you guys also want a Django hat? That is something I would love to hear from you about. These live streams are a lot of fun. I will say that, because, you know, for years, the thing about it is for years, I'm talking to a camera and a mic by myself in my studio, right? I'm not actually getting this kind of interaction. And when I did live streams in the past, I think the big reason I would get burnt out on them is because of how the live chats work. I didn't actually have, I didn't have this, right? So I know there's like this slow mode and stuff like that, but this literally slows me down, and I can actually look at individual questions and ask these things out. You know, I can actually hone into one thing, take as long as I want on it, and not accidentally scroll and miss a bunch of things. I can also kind of pick and choose which ones that I want to actually respond to. I actually try to respond to as many as I can in order. I skip ones that are, you know, often just kind of pointless. But anyway, so you learn Django from Dennis and myself. Thank you so much. Any advice for a freelancer who's just starting out? Always give way more value than you get in return, right? So if you think the job is worth $10,000, given just a random number, maybe charge $2,000 for it, but do $10,000 work. Eventually, you'll be in so much demand that you will not be charging $10,000, but instead you'll be charging $20,000, and then your work will be worth $50,000, right? Or more. So as a freelancer, you need to start somewhere. And if that means that the project is saying, hey, it's going to be $1,000, and you're okay with working your butt off for $50, do it for $50. Build up some momentum yourself and work in Django or anything that you're freelancing on as much as humanly possible. Because as you're starting out, what you need is a real client, somebody who's giving you honest feedback on what you're doing as soon as possible, so you can continuously improve. And ideally, that feedback is coming in the ways of, hey, I hired you to do this. I want you to do it really well. That's what I think. Look at me here. I just said I was not going to ask or answer any more questions. Yes. So thank you guys so much for coming out. I really appreciate it. I think these live chats have been useful for some of you. And it looks like, yes, we want a Django hat. We got one for a Django hat. I definitely will do a poll soon on whether or not people would actually want to purchase a Django hat. And I honestly, sending it throughout the world is going to be maybe expensive. I actually don't know. I've never actually tried to ship a hat anywhere. Ooh, I like this one. Will the new Django Bootcamp series be completely on YouTube? This is a really good one to end with. So yes, the Bootcamp series that I'm doing, all of the streaming content will be on YouTube for free, and it will always live there. I'm going to be doing private sessions with a small group, and that will not be free. All of that information will be on that private stream. So if you are subscribed and you have alerts ready, you'll learn about it or hear about it on this channel starting next week. Okay, guys. So thanks so much for watching. Appreciate it. I will see you